Welcome back to Developing the Leader Within podcast, as we address leadership from different angles to bring you what you need to know to succeed. Today, I am with Ray Leonard Jr. Ray is the Chief Executive Officer at Ovationz and co-founder of Nobody Studios. He has over 20 years domestic and international experience as a C-level executive and entrepreneur, motivational speaker, and organizational consultant in the finance, sports, and entertainment industries. Ray, welcome to the show. Thank you for being with me today.
Enrique, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. Excited to have this conversation. The title is right up my alley. Exactly what I've had to do many times over the years. So I'm glad to be on the show.
Outstanding, folks. We're going to be talking about leadership and focus. But before we get into that arena, Ray, tell us a little bit about you.
Whoa, that's a loaded question. It's a little bit about me. I could go back and say I'm a product of two teenage parents. My mother was 15 and 16 years old. My father was 16 when I was born. And lived in Palmer Park, Maryland, and was kind of thrust into fame at a very early age with young parents and coming from a Black community back in the early 70s that had no real direction. And we figured it out along the way. So, my story is one of learning, one of growth, one of pitfalls and high super high moments, and meeting some of the most amazing people in the world and having some of the worst days in the world. But that's what life is about. So for me, I just enjoy the journey of life. I never get too high, too low on what life brings me. I'm, just enjoying the ride.
Amazing. And you and I spoke a couple of weeks ago, and we were just talking about two pivotal points, or two individuals that invested in you early with wisdom. And out of all the things that we can have in the world, wisdom would be that one thing. Understanding would be the most thing. If I am to reference the book of Proverbs, right? And all you're getting, get wisdom, but get understanding, right? So, can you share? We have you say this: do know better, do better. Can you share with me the background around that?
So, yeah, when you talk about wisdom and talking about people that imparted things in your life, I was around some big time celebrities and people, and most people would think, oh, hey, you learned your life lessons from these people. But I learned my life lesson, the biggest life lesson that guides my life, from the most humble person in my life. Sixth grade education, a sharecropper from South Carolina, my grandfather, my father's father. And he was a man of very few words, but when he spoke, it resonated. Like when he told you something, you listened. And that was the difference between, I think, now and then, is that the time that we spent with our elders was the way we learned. It was the most valuable education. And so my grandfather, one day, I was having a bad day and I was sitting there with him, because I would always sit in the kitchen with him. He would cook. And that was kind of his like patience time, his time that he would download, his meditation time. And I was sitting in the kitchen and I was learning from him how to cook. So I said, sometimes it's frustrating just being where we are, and then people are talking about, me, talking about our family. Everything is in the media. And he said, no, son, when you know better, you do better. And he said, and I was like, okay, whatever, Grandpa. I don't know what you're talking about. But later on in life, that meant something to me. And what he was telling me is that you can only be the best you that you can be. And when you learn and you take that and you progress to being even better every single day, that's what makes you a better person. That's what makes you own all the nonsense that we all have, own your life, own everything, and have accountability, because you're constantly learning, you're constantly trying to be better. And so if you're moving forward, you're progressing, then there is nothing in your life that you can overcome.
And I absolutely love that. You know, when you talk about the time that we spent with our elders, you hardly see that anymore. And you know, reminiscing about my time with my grandparents and the amount that I got from them is something my children have not been privy to, unfortunately, because of the you know, deployment and the Navy life. You know, and last year, my mom passed. So, you know, it's one of those things that now my children will not get to sit around. So the
Mm.
onus is on me to make sure that I pass on whatever wisdom I got from them to them. But what a beautiful story of an investment. And for those of you listening and your leaders, and you're not investing in your children or you are not investing in your grandchildren and sharing what you know with them, you know, it may be a shame on you type of moment. So, you know, just take advantage of all that. And today we're talking about focus, right? And if it's anything I got from your story, from anything I've read on you and have seen you speak about, is focus. Now, you know, I'm going to go through real quickly some definitions on the Webster's because it's important, right? Focus, a center of activity, attraction or attention, a point of concentration. And what's amazing is it also says adjustment for distinct vision, a point of conversion of a beam. And so I wanted to ask you, Ray, uh, knowing that and knowing all that you've spoken about, why is it important for leaders to find focus in their career?
You know, that was one I struggled with early on. And so that being that my father became, you know, Olympic gold medalist and six-time world champion in five different weight divisions, it opened up a lot of doors. And a lot of confusion can happen when you have so many people pulling you in all these different directions. And it's easy to lose sight of what is important to you and what your goals are. And so when you start being intentional about what your goals are and seeing that path and saying, I need to accomplish this and setting milestones becomes a big major part of focus that, you know, it's easy to get distracted. I mean, we have so many different things, especially nowadays, from social media telling you need to be this. You have friends telling you need to do this. You have business associates saying this. And I mean, as a leader, you have to have that mindset that no matter what's going on, I need to get to this point. Right. I'm driving from A to B. And I'm gonna get, you know, turned away multiple times from that. But I have to still figure out how to get to A to B. And once I get to B, then I can go to C. But you can't jump spots. And that was one of the hardest life lessons I had to learn. You know, I thought I was going to be a professional athlete early on. You know, was a really good football player in high school and top track athlete in high school. Then went on to college to be a two-sport Division I athlete. And my focus got shaded into thinking that I could jump the line of success, that I wanted to have it faster than what it called for. So I learned the lesson that you can't just jump the line. Like, you have to put in the work, you have to have the dedication, and you have to have the consistency to be successful. Because life is not going to be a linear thing. There's going to be movement throughout it. It's like a roller coaster. It'll be movement, and if you don't have that focus, you will keep getting distracted and never reach your goal.
That's so powerful, you know, and thank you for sharing that piece in your life because it is true. You will get sidetracked with so much that's going on. We live in a fast-paced life. It is not like I remember back in Puerto Rico where you could just, you know, roam through the countryside and pull on a you know, a couple of bananas and a mango and, you know, and passion fruit and just loving life. Things are so fast paced and so easily we can become unfocused or distracted, as you say. Now, um, what role does focus have in the leader's ability to succeed? Because as you was mentioning, right, there's a enticement to tend to want to jump some levels, and enticement of maybe because of resources that you may have at your side to be able to say, hey, I want to cut this line and make this faster. But there's a role that focus has in a leader's ability to succeed.
So I look at it, my first big role as a leader, and so this is what resonates with me about, you know, how focus plays a part in what leaders do. My first major role is as a father, and so your kids have to learn and grow, and you have to be able to put them in the right direction and be consistent with what you're doing with them. Um, because if you are not consistent, there'll be problems down the line. So when you're a leader, there is this easy way to think, okay, here I can have this immediate success, or I can do this. But you skip steps and then you cause issues. And you know that from the Navy, or when, you know, pilots have their checklist. You got to go down your checklist and make sure you have a successful trip, right? So if you don't go over that checklist every single time and you're not locked in and you miss one thing, it could be catastrophic for everything. So as a leader, you have to have that legitimate focus and always make sure that you're consistent about what you're doing. Not that you don't learn and try to adjust to different things, but the consistency and saying, you know, everybody's not going to move at the same pace. Everybody's not going to hear what I'm saying at the same tone. So I have to make sure that my orders, or the things that I'm saying, my vision or our vision, is being correctly communicated, and everybody understands what they're doing. So when I coach sports, I talk about DYJ. So do your job, right? And so you don't have to be looking at what the quarterback is doing if I'm in football or whatever. You don't have to look at what the linemen are doing. You have to trust that they're going to do their job, and the communication was there, and everybody understands what their job is. And so from a leader standpoint, that is what you're doing. You're moving that ship towards the right direction and trusting that everybody's going to do their job. So you got to be focused, because if you're not, then you can unravel the whole organization. So no, that's what I think about. That's important for leaders to understand about staying focused on what you're doing. Because you'll have naysayers, you'll have people that, oh man, look, if you did this, then hey, it'd be great. But you know your path is driven by something. You've done the research, you've done the background, you've controlled your ape. So your attitude, your preparation, and your effort. So you know where you're going. So that's kind of the thought process with leadership and focus.
Now, I love how you paint the stair and steps, and because I've often told my children, I said, hey, son, if you skip a step, just know that you'll have to revisit it. There is no way you can climb up a stairs. Now, and some people, they do. They try to take two or three steps, and they get into that habit. And before you know it, they forget how many steps they are, and they try to go ahead and step, and they miss. And
Mm.
so, and I see it all the time. My son running up the stairs. I say, boy, one day you're going to hit that, and then it's going to hurt because that floor don't give way. Right. And sure enough,
Right.
here it goes. Boom, boom, boom. Damn.
Yep.
And he's like, oh my goodness, I got hurt. I said, well, that's why I was telling you. If you skip a step, you're going to get hurt. So, with that framework and with that backdrop, focus can tend to either increase or decrease the longevity of a leader wherever they're going. And so, how can focus increase the longevity of in business? Because it's another thing. You're a businessman, right? Yeah, your CEO, your co-founder, and in business, how can a leader increase their longevity in business with focus?
So that it's interesting that you bring that up. So increasing longevity, because I was successful coming out as a young man. Got my sports management degree, became an NFL sports agent by the time I was 21 years old, started building a company out of just raw um, intention and raw a belief in myself that, I've seen so many entrepreneurs do it at a high level, so why not me? And that's probably to a fault for me because when you see success, it's hard to go back. And I know that okay, each person has their God-given gifts, and just that belief in myself, that self-esteem. I thought that I could do anything. There was nothing off limits for me, and so that was a gift and a curse because at times to understand as a young person about focus and continual excellence as a leader, it's hard because you see the money coming in, you see the accolades coming in from different organizations and all those different things, and you lose sight of what's really important. And the first thing about why you actually created the business and what problem you were solving. So I think in the long term, for me as a CEO, as a businessman, as an executive, and for most executives and entrepreneurs, the biggest thing for longevity becomes not losing sight of why you started in the first place. And that becomes your focus, because um, when I sold my sports management company when I was like 26 years old, and I thought that was the end of the game. And I was chasing money. I was chasing the high that I had, and so got into the financial services business, and it was, very lucrative. It was good, but I hated what I was doing, and so I was there, not focused on what I was doing, but I was there to collect the check, basically. And so when I got back into being an entrepreneur again and building a business and building something that I want to create as a legacy for my kids and my family, and being a beacon for my community, it changed the thought process. And so everything that I do, as smart as being focused, is intentional. So I'm like playing. I'm an avid chess player, so I'm thinking 4 or 5 moves ahead. They're like, how are you doing this? Like, why are you doing 2 or 3 things? It's like, but you don't understand why these things merge together and why they're intentional and what that long-term goal is about how these things will come together at the end of the day. So you may not see it in a cloud of everything that's happening, but when the picture clears up, you'll see it very clearly and why it was intentional and why it happened that way.
Yeah, that's a very powerful, backdrop when you talk about being intentional. Your intent has a lot to do with your longevity. And we was talking about being distracted. I also have mentioned the Webster's dictionary version of focus, and one of them was adjustment for distinct vision. The leader, the CEO, right? They have this vision, and it requires them to focus. And it's nice to be able to see, and good on you to be able to see how things are going to play out. These things will end up this way, and playing chess is probably one of the best ways of getting that frame of mind, to be able to think that way. um, and so you've seen a lot of success with that ability. You've been able to focus on, or learn to focus on, this distinct vision that you have for your company. And there's a lot of people out here that want to learn how to do that. So, what would be some top tips you can give leaders regarding focus that they could take away today and say, you know what, I'm on my way?
But there are no shortcuts. First and foremost, there are no shortcuts. So understanding that, and understanding if you're going to be the leader, if you're going to be a CEO, if you're going to be the head of the company, that you have to understand the jobs of everybody that's involved. And you don't have to be an expert in it, but you have to understand the jobs and what goes into each person's position that it's in. And when you talk about, from a level, if you're just starting out, you got to be everything to everybody. But then if you move up and then you're a CEO of a bigger organization, so you have to go back and figure it out. So you don't, the thing that I think about a lot is understanding that all the puzzle pieces have to fit together. I talked about a little bit earlier today. I talked about, DYJ. So all the puzzle pieces have to work together to make it successful. You can't skip steps like you talked about with your son. I talked to my son the other day, and he had a math test, and he did really well in the math test. And he said, "Yeah, I just filled in the blank and guessed on some of those things, and it worked out." I'm like, but you cannot run an organization guessing that this is going to work out, because 9 times out of 10, that's not going to work out the way you think it's going to work out. So you don't have to be a micromanager, but you have to know that here your vision and your focus is going to affect everybody else's focus. And so when you're talking about what it takes to get to that level or maintain that level of focus, as a leader, it's more so about looking what Tom Brady does. Tom Brady practiced over and over again these same scenarios in his head. So when you're moving the pieces, because I look at football like a chessboard too. When the pieces are moving, he already knows what two steps ahead where you're going. So he's delivering the ball because he's practiced it over and over again. He's seen it over and over again. And if you don't do that as a business person to understand all possible scenarios and how you need to react when they come up, then you're in a bad space. Because when I talk about in the profession of boxing, we train over and over again with the jab, or train shadow boxing, or train moving out away from a same punch, and they're like, "Oh, well, I'm so tired of practicing." Like Allen Iverson said, "Practice, practice." You practice so you have muscle memory. So when a situation comes up, you're able to react. And unfortunately, a lot of times, especially nowadays in life, you have people overthinking situations and trying to figure out how to react because they're not prepared for what's going to happen.
Yeah, preparation meets opportunity, right? That's how they say it. But I tell you what, um, you know, everybody's got a smart thing to say until they get punched in the mouth, right?
Exactly, exactly.
So
That was Mike Tyson said that was one of the most profound things ever in world history, because everybody can have a plan until you get punched in the mouth, and then how do you react from that?
and I still remember when I heard that from him, I was like, whoa, it's true. It's true, right? And you can plan, and that's another thing. You can plan all you want. If you didn't prepare, if you didn't practice, if you didn't run these things through your head, if you did not take the time to not miss a step, right, and get all the steps in, if you did not do that, then you will get surprised. There is a surprise for you, and it's coming. So hopefully everybody is focusing on what they want to do, and being intentional about it. Um, Ray, I always enjoy listening to you. I've enjoyed speaking to you. You're a man of many wisdoms that both acquired and sharing. You do it on stage all the time. If there was somebody that wanted to get a hold of you, either to collaborate with your company, or do some business, or have you speak with them since you're a speaker, how would they do that?
So the easy way on all the social media platforms is the branding has been the same. Ray Leonard Jr. at every single platform that I'm on. My website, rayleonardjr.com, and my new company, Ovationz, Ovationz with a Z, Ovationz with a Z. You check out ovationz.com. We're doing some amazing things, providing opportunities for people to expand their brand, expand their growth, expand their knowledge, and share with the world. So That's yeah, that's where you can catch me. We're doing some amazing things. I'm super excited because every single ups and down that I've had in my life has been a learning process, and I'm learning and growing, and this is another growth opportunity for me, and hopefully I'm providing an asset to the world that's going to live for a long time.
I absolutely can echo that and know that you are you are providing a great platform, folks. Um, Ovationz, check it out. I happen to be a member of the platform.
Yeah,
So
Enrique's
happy,
on there. Yeah, yeah, beautiful.
yeah, so happy to be part of Ovationz, and the great work that you guys are doing with Nobody Studios. It's amazing what you're doing in that regard. So, folks, I'm going to have that as part of the show notes and video, so you can get a hold of Ray. He's doing some great things. And if you've enjoyed this episode and learned something interesting about the topic covered today, make sure to subscribe and let us know by leaving a comment right now. We're always looking for new ideas and guests that we can add to our show. So if you know someone or have a topic that you would like featured on the podcast, we'd love to hear about it by emailing us at triadleadershipsolutions@gmail.com. And today's episode is sponsored by Triad Leadership Solutions. We thank our sponsor. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode where we dissect leadership from another angle. And as we like to end the show, success to you.